Hello, hello, and welcome to our webinar. My name is Mehdi and your host today. I'm thrilled to have you all here. Today, DCS Global and our partner, 22Miles, will be diving into AI technologies. And before we dive in, let's quickly cover some few house rules first. If you have any questions, please use the chat feature at the bottom of your Zoom window. Our team will be actively monitoring the chat and will follow up at the end of the presentation. For any questions requiring more detailed support, we're more than happy to schedule a one on one session with our team. We are also recording this session for you folks. And for those who weren't able to join us today, we'll have that ready. And once again, thank you all for joining. We hope you find this session valuable. And without further ado, let's dive into our presentation with Randy Marcotte, our president here at DCS Global.
Thanks, Mehdi.
Mhm.
We really appreciate the time. We're going to keep this to about 30 minutes. And as Mehdi mentioned, we're doing more of a listen-only mode just because we want to keep it active. Tui and I will introduce ourselves separately, but we'll also stay on after the recording stops. So if any of the participants want to stay on for individualized questions, we have booked ourselves for an hour. We've booked this event for 30 minutes. Mehdi's going to do a little bit of an agenda review and a slide review, but really it's I'll go first for about 10 minutes around why DCS is and the Perfect Video Conferencing brand are adopting an AI stance in market. And really the true show is 22 Miles. I'm the president and CEO of president of DCS Global, CEO of Perfect Video Conferencing. We've merged recently, and as an umbrella of companies, our intention is to bring solutions that solve problems. So a quick little elevator pitch around our philosophy and some websites for reference. We pride ourselves on having 4 core values that stand in front of everything we do, and we just ask that you hold us accountable to these 4 core pillars. Partnership, and that means we typically want to listen and talk in the right combination, listen to the problems you have, and bring technology solutions to the table that help you with that. Innovation really is the key to what we're a small company, and it's the key to how we succeed in market. We're not going to cookie cutter the solutions out for you, and those that need templated solutions, we certainly can scale for those, but our superpower really is more of the innovative edge around the core things we do, and that brings value and excellence into all that we do. If you're curious in general about what we do and how we do it, you can kind of peruse either the store.perfectvc or the DCS Global websites. Very accurate, constantly changing. And so if you bring things to the table that we need to modify, you'll see it there. But really, it comes down to some of our powerhouse partners and some bundles that we do in small, medium, and large spaces. So just because this is both an orientation to who we are and a 22 Miles, wanted to make sure the 3 core lanes that we occupy from a product perspective are very clear. And then the things that we're doing next around professional services, consult, and AI become the expansion lanes for our business line. You won't see as much on the AI portfolio because a lot of this is mired in buzzwords, and we don't want to participate in that. We want to do actual products that solve the problems in front of you. So speaking of which, we do bring video conferencing, kind of your standard Zoom or Teams or Hangout, life size or poly related bridging infrastructure, and then the equipment that goes with it, WebEx or Cisco or whatever. We're generally agnostic. We do have some powerhouse partners that leverage their skills with us, and therefore we do more with them. And so you'll see more Logitech. They are the leader in this space and really pushing kind of the frontier of both AI and video conferencing. So in the video conferencing space, you'll see us with Logi or Yealink or Sennheiser or Yamaha, Shure, some of the powerhouse partners in there, and some of the disruptors, because we want to make sure we maintain that edge. We're unique in that we do guarantee our work at any level. So if we say we're going to do it, we're going to do it on cost and on target, and there's not going to be a change order that surprises you. You'll get to approve any modification to a project. And those are, if they're my fault, I pay for it. If they're your fault, we have a conversation about what the root cause was, and how do we solution that. We don't want to surprise your business because we know that that's not going to be good for you. Already mentioned kind of the core pieces of what we do. Got a timer running in the back, Medi, so don't worry, I won't go over. I know you're generally worried. We do typically, once we're in a solution, we're looking for other things we could do to help optimize that solution. So in a kiosk environment or a digital signage environment, sometimes lighting can be an interference, or the staging of where you put the gear might not be optimal. So in addition to the product delivery that we're going to bring to you, it's also about the experience that we're looking to optimize. And that is true, especially in the AV video conferencing and AV design space. So there are things like sound masking and Wi-Fi infrastructure, or a stage project management so it gets deployed properly. And this image in the background is an all-hand space, and we know that those rooms can have multiple functions, which really changes the install equipment and the infrastructure needed behind it. I'm not a guy who likes to read slides entirely, so I'm going to start making my transition over to 22Miles and TUI, but wanted to focus a little bit before I do on why kiosks and digital signage is making a difference in the AI space and why we chose 22Miles. So an example of a couple of the kiosks, certainly we have support desk. And then really lastly, for a slide perspective, there are solutions that go with everything we sell. And that is the key to our long-term success with our client base. And that's where this pivot came to us, is from our clients. Our clients were starting to ask us consult questions around what the cameras can do, or what the video conferencing systems can do from an AI perspective. And candidly, they already were. So before ChatGPT launched and large language models became sort of a vocabulary of everyone, these things were already in play, just as much as they were already doing automated recommendations for food nearby based on proximity on a smartphone, or I won't say the name, but the browser or the Apple device, because I have both of them in here. I don't want them popping up and answering, but they're listening and they can give you information. So we've been doing language model based AIs and text to translate for many years. This is not a new phenomenon. What's new is the ability for us to use these tools not only to modify the approach in the room, but to simplify the experience of the hardware. So from a video conferencing perspective, it used to be very difficult to have cameras track a primary speaker. And I'm on a unit right now. If I raise my hand, it's going to blink at me, and then it'll end up by doing an AI event. So it's going to basically start, and I'll actually just show a little bit about what it does. There's an auto tracker that can happen in that. So I raised my hand, and now this event used to be very expensive and hard, fairly hard to pull off. With using this one too, I can also do some automating zooming in and zooming out, which really helps in a classroom situation. So you can train these tools to respond to the human. And because I'm a little jittery, you're going to see this thing bounce around. So I'm going to turn off the tracking and just go to a static view. But again, the event that we've crossed, and we're very excited about 22Miles, is we're seeing practical, real problem solving solutions. Lastly, then going into what DCS and Perfect Video Conferencing will be doing is that in addition to selling our cameras, our microphones, our speakers, our digital signage, our kiosks, we're starting to move to a space where we're using a number of AI-enabled meeting companions. Zoom's got one. They're not typically allowed in these webinar infrastructures, but we're adding Fathom, Spinach, Fireflies, Read, a number of the top providers of meeting companion summary or enhancement tools. And so I'll just give a quick example of one of them, and this one happens to be Fathom. It's a companion in a meeting summary tool that'll actually give you information about how the meeting was used, what the outcomes were, and it does it based on persona. So the thing that we really like about some of these tools and why we're adding it to our portfolio is based on the outcomes of a meeting that you have, be it a sales demo or a one-on-one meeting or an HR event. there are different keywords or vectors that you're looking for the AI tool to use to enhance the experience. And it's really that human to computer or human workflow to AI that is the big shift that's happened recently, and why we're choosing to pivot our business not only to sell the video conferencing and the cameras and the screens that react to the human, the client, your customer. We're not going to only do that, but we want technology that actually helps us be better at what we're doing. We're not going to be replaced by these tools. We are going to be enhanced by these tools. So it's that relationship between the tool as it is and the tool that you need that we're really excited to play a role in with 22 Miles. Where the rubber hits the road is really that workspace reservation or the experience of a campus that we may be enabling with technology. And certainly kiosks and digital signage play a key role in it. I'm showing here the Zoom experience of this. Hangouts has one, Teams has one, Logitech has equipment and software that does it. It's really about booking a flexible workspace for the project or the needs of the business and having visibility to where you find your colleagues. So in the hybrid live work at home, come to the office occasionally space, we need tools that are really going to help us find our way and optimize our way through the space. So that's really where I hand it off to 22 Miles. It's the wayfinding, the technology behind this. But I know, Mehdi, there were also some slides that you wanted to bring up. So I'll stop sharing and mute my mic and turn it off to you. If you need us, you'll find my contact information in the slides. But 22 Miles and Tui, I hand it off to you, sir.
Yeah, thanks so much. Really happy to be here. I think I think Randy said it all. We are very purposeful about who we partner with and how we partner with them. And as you can see that they're pretty serious about this space, and when it comes to kiosks, audio, video, I mean, they're one of the top and premier partners that we have. So it is a perfect partnership to really launch the intersection of AI in terms of digital signage and wayfinding into a real world practical application. So I think before I dive into what that really means, and I think you saw some examples of what it could mean for meetings, but I think we're going to level set on what type of AI is available for you today. So if you go down a couple of slides, Mehdi, there are, well, before I do that, I think Randy may have stolen the quote that I was going to say. And I think he's spot on, right? I think the quote on the next slide is that some people call this artificial intelligence, but really it's an enhancement of who we are. So instead of really calling that, we could just call it that it's augmenting our own intelligence. And it's really being smarter with the meetings. It's being smarter at a kiosk. It's being smarter at a retail environment. So when you implement AI in that sense, it's not just that it's a technology that makes that are unique and different, and people are talking about ChatGPT, but it really makes our lives a little bit easier. So how does it do that? On the next slide, Maddie, there are really three. I think we talked about DCS and 22 Miles. And I think you can, I'm not going to read all of this, but basically this is really the genesis of why we're together. And I believe that the two of us, with what Randy has to offer and what 22 Miles has developed, and like he says, it's been around for a while. So we have dabbled with this for over a year. And we've developed a couple of products that it is market ready. And we'd love to show you that in a little bit. So on the next slide, the three types of AI, and I think if you just think about the AI and you bucket them into these three categories, it makes a lot more sense. The first one is really the content creation. A lot of people have come and asked us, like, can we create, can 22 Miles or any company really make just random content for digital signage? We're not that company. I mean, the companies that really are into that, as you know, if you've heard of Zora, which is a ChatGPT recent product, or Adobe, right? Adobe Illustrator. There are companies that literally can create content on the fly that looks like a real video. It looks like an image, obviously an AI created image that is almost indistinguishable from a real photograph, right? So that's what we call the content creation aspect of it. The second one is the content curation. The content curation, if you want to think about, it is almost like Google on steroids, right? A lot of search engines really look at keywords, but the content curation from an AI takes it to a different level. It's actually thinking about not just the data set, but the type of questions that you're asking. It's the meaning of your questions. So that is a little bit different, right? And not only that, it speaks a lot of languages, right? I know that ChatGPT speaks about 100 different languages natively. And then the last bucket, and I think this bucket has been around for, who knows, 50 years, right? It's the command. It's when you're telling a computer to do something. So for 22 miles, we have some of those commands built into our CMS, our content management system. So things like change my password or check out the status of a player. So things like that, you can still do in a world of digital signage. But again, it's different than the content creation. It's different than the curation. These are pure command functions. So all of these three things, hopefully that makes sense to you, really does enhance the experience of how digital signage and wayfinding works. So I'm going to hopefully show you a live example of one of the kiosks that we have, and it's a live example. So forgive me if the speed is a little slower because it is internet dependent. But I'm going to show. It's cool.
And as you make that transition, I
Yeah.
did put in chat, it's important to note that none of the products that we are offering as a reseller, and there's two lanes here, there's reseller products that DCS is bringing in so that our portfolio expands and our services are better, because we know our clients are asking for AI. None of the products we're choosing are taking an open source LLM and rendering our or your data out to the learning model so it leverages your intel. So it still remains a private instance, leveraging some of the open source stuff. In the 22 miles space, this is their own LLM, a database that never touches Google or the others that are aggregating data. So these products are not about bringing your experience or your client's experience, your user's experience out to make Facebook better. This is private.
Yeah, that's a
Yeah.
thank you. That's a great point. Yeah, I should touch upon that a little bit too. So you have options when it comes to AI, and I think being private about your data set is really important. 22 miles, obviously we can implement a ChatGPT model, but 22 miles also has its own AI. And that could also live on-prem, so on-premise, and not be dependent on the cloud at all. But here's a great example. So this is a kiosk at Rocket Mortgage, and I think if you guys remember, LeBron James used to play in Ohio, and this was his arena. It has since he's since moved on to LA, but the kiosk still exists. So at the kiosk today, you can walk up to it and really just interact with this kiosk like you would a person, right? So you can literally say, walk up to here. And again, I'm typing, but as you'll notice that there is a speaker, and Randy would be much better to respond on how this works, but you can actually talk to it. But you could just type the question, like, let's say I'm hungry, right? I want a hot dog. And you can just type it in, or you can just speak to it. And it will find, because this is a combination of all the events that is taking place at the Rocket Mortgage, but it's also all the venues that's available at the Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse as well. So the intelligence behind this is like, yeah, I found you a couple food options that you can buy. and there's one here at the fan fuel, and it's going to take you there on a 3D map. So that's pretty cool. It could, I mean, so anything in this map that you see, for example, if you could say like, I'm looking for, and again, it's native language, right? So I'm looking for a bathroom, for instance.
Yeah, and at the showroom, we did my broken English, my crappy Spanish, and one of the 22 Miles staff spoke in Chinese, Cantonese. The kiosk didn't miss a beat, responding back to us in language presented and experience desired. And so that instantaneous meet you where you are and give you the answer to your needs is really why 22 Miles, first in market with a product like this is why we're productizing this on our kiosks.
Yeah, so the ability to have this type of inclusion, I think it's off the charts, right? This is running on ChatGPT, so we know that it speaks 100 native languages. So I asked it in French, but here's the difference is that it's responding to me in French, right? So it's actually speaking the language that I'm speaking, and it switches, as you saw, on the fly. Here it's actually asking like what type of where do you want to go here? What is it, but I think you get the idea that we can I found the men's bathroom. Okay.
Yeah,
So
it's a good example. I mean, and it's the same effect that we'd have with the grandparents trying to do FaceTime, right? It's the quality of data in becomes the quality of data out, and all of this is language prompting. So the right keywords based on the proximity. That's where the professional services come in play. Is we're going to design these based on the outcome experience, not the input, because the input's going to always be an imprecise event. I'm going to speak differently than Tui is, than Medi is, but the output, which is the driven experience of the consumer you're trying to serve, is really what we try to contain with these tools.
Yeah. And so another thing that we've done that the AI is actually trained on the agenda as well. So here you could ask things like, for instance, if you want to know, are women's basketball being played here, right? And then again, because the ChatGPT is trained on the agenda, and so anything that's listed on the agenda, it will find. So here it says, yeah, there is a women's basketball finals for the NCAA on April 5th. In addition to that, you can also have it go to give people the ability to go buy tickets, right? So you can link them out and they can find more information on, and these are all predetermined. So obviously they want you to buy the tickets through here. So we can just follow this example and get the tickets right on the spot. So that's really neat.
I'm starting to monitor chat. This would be a great opportunity. I know too. There's a couple other things on the demo on the slide. We've got plenty of time for all of that. But if anyone does have stuff in chat, send it direct to me. We will answer questions live. But I'd say let's put a 10-minute wrap up warning on this, if that's okay.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So that is a couple of examples that I wanted to show you in real time, and as you saw that it's actually quite it's quite speedy, despite the fact that I was on the internet doing this in real time. But I think you saw the power of what this could provide, right? And so with the experience that Randy has with DCS, I mean, I mean, honestly, it's sky's the limit on how you can improve the guest experience, the employee experience, the work group experience, which is this type of this power.
And we're not breaking the relationship to these AI tools that we all carry in our pockets too. So from a multi-tenant office space, you can say, where is Randy's desk today? And it could, natural language process to show you where I've booked a room or a conference room, maybe even pop up my calendar and then give you a QR code where then you can carry your kiosk experience with you and find me in that workspace. And it really is about having these collaboration spaces, if that's where you're deploying this, entry kiosk to a workspace.
Yeah.
Be more immersive. And in chat, I had a couple people message, well, what are the practical implications? So TUI, I put in convention centers, trade shows, infocom, hotels, right? There's these large venue, confusing spaces. Really could give the end user, again, that immediate data and interaction, and then the traceable, carryable event here. So the relationship between this kiosk that I hold and the kiosk in front of you is seamless.
Yeah, we just came back from NRF. I just not came back, but it's in January. But you can see that there's a QR code. So this entire experience here can live on your phone. So you can just walk on your phone and ask, is Sony exhibiting? So the same thing that I just showed you at the Rocket Mortgage. Again, training the AI on the NRF agenda and the venue itself, it has the same effect. And again, all of this works right on your phone, as Randy just mentioned.
Good. We do want to keep these brief, so
Okay.
I'm also someone who is okay with ending early. Mehdi, I'm keeping an eye on chat. I didn't see anything that came publicly to a group. I did get a couple direct that I've answered individually. So those are private chats to me that I think we're good with. So this is an overture, Mehdi, to see if there are any open questions from the field.
Yeah, I got some direct message. Tui, I have one directly for you. Is like, what is the cost of implementing AI in a kiosk, like typically?
Yeah, that is a terrific question. The cost, I mean, I hate to say this, but it really is, it depends. So I think for you guys to think about cost of AI and kiosk and how you would utilize this, there's two components of the cost. One is the one-time installation or implementation of AI. So that's one-time use, and that cost is dependent on your data set. It depends on how quickly we can get to the data, how difficult it is, if it requires external data connections, and how you want that data to be, trained. So that's the one-time cost. And then the second part of that is really the ongoing cost. So that's the license, the annual license, and the continuous support that you would require. But again, it varies so much, and I don't want to say something that could, I think this is a conversation that you probably should have with Randy.
Yeah, there are some ranges that we can talk about. So a good weatherproof indoor, puncture proof, touch proof indoor kiosks that can be as cheap as a couple of $1,000s, and they can be as expensive as 30 to 40, depending on the size and the scale. When it comes to an LLM model, our average kiosk sales $6,000 to $10,000 for a hardened kiosk. These pieces of equipment aren't massively prohibitively expensive. And then the more you get and the simpler they are, the cheaper they become, right? So the hardware itself is pretty simple. The media player is a Chrome or a simplified computer. So the actual device itself is fairly inexpensive. And then you're going to have a term, a 1, 2, or 3-year term on the software and the licensing to get the CMS, the content management solution, over to the kiosk. In simple terms, it's a web page. So the more complicated and automated your web page, the more complicated and difficult the AI is. So you could do an AI tool plugin for free today on your own and get some website to render basic AI information. So that excludes me and TUI and 22Miles and DCS, but however you render a microphone to your website, and a number of open source tools are available today. So if it's literally just about directions and where's the nearest Starbucks, your user can do that on their phone. They could do that on their phone 3 years ago, but now they can also do that for free on the kiosk. We're talking about the private instance of AI where we have to train a language model against your data set. And so there's a console to understand your data set and what you have in your organization and what I'm going to tags, vectors really, but the tags that you're looking for, I don't want to get too nerdy, but the things that you want to database against become the cost multiplier. And so the more complicated your data set, the longer the professional services engagement in. But floor plans are PDFs and they're loadable, they're color coded. That part's easy. It's rendering the experience behind it. And so we're generally looking at a couple of $1,000s for a baseline up to, the stadium locations those are $30,000 and $40,000 engagements to get that right and to scale that out properly. A convention center would have fairly complicated installs. A casino would have fairly complicated installs. So you are looking at a $20,000 to $30,000 upfront charge to get the database right, if it's private, right? In that range. Joey, did I miss anything? I know we don't.
No, I think you got it.
Yeah, and
It's not-
again, the more or less complicated, the easier it is. So, Maddie, anything else? Don't anyone take me to the bank on that quote. But those are some rough numbers because we don't know what we don't know, but we're consciously incompetent. So we know what we know and we know what we don't know. When we meet with you, then we figure out together where we go.
Yeah, 100%.
Gotcha.
Yeah, what else came in, Mehdi?
Let's see. There's another question here. It says, how long does it take to implement the AI in my data?
Yeah, that's a great follow-up question. I think it goes along with what he just said. The complexity. Now, if a customer has, a data set that's like a private repository that's very well defined, I mean, it could take a couple weeks, right? But if it requires to go externally and there's a lot of, it depends on the requirements and expectations of more complicated data sets, it could take a couple of months. So it really does depend, costing and timing. It really is. I think it's the same answer, really.
And if you're okay with us scrubbing data based on tools that scrub data, then that cycle there are machine tools that teach the machine. So if like Google has just launched a AI tool that will look at my Google Drive and my historical data and aggregate based on keywords projects over time. And so it's a free tool from Google. I have to give it permissions to see all of my data, which I've not done because that's also your data, you're my customer. But these tools could look at your data and help you with that ramp up period. So it really depends on your comfort level of how you want your data touched and vectored as a first step. But again, wayfinding, the where's the Starbucks, those are the easier events. It's more of the customizable scheduled based events. How do you update the schedules and how do we get that information into the tool? Those are the things that make these databases relevant and time specific, and then irrelevant if they're not updated. And that's really where this programming comes in. Lastly, too, if they have a data scientist or they've started this, they've already taken leaps and bounds to get this done. So if you've already started implementing AI in your organization and you understand what it takes to protect your data, you're going to be saving yourself a lot of time and money.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I mean, what we do for them too will also speed up any other problems they're trying to solve. So, I mean, if they haven't, we're not an AI consult shop as it goes, but we're a deployment of AI tools for shops that are considering it. So there's a nuance there that we can discuss. So thanks, Mehdi. Appreciate that one. I got a little propeller heady on you. Sorry about that.
No worries, no worries. There's another question pertaining the chat box. So in that demo, you said you could talk to it. How will it understand you in a noisy environment?
Microphone technology, really. These Intuit, I know it's really it's the quality of the microphone and what we do.
It is
omnidirectional, and so depending on how noisy, we can put a better microphone in. We're using very specific directional microphones in a noisy snowcat going up the side of a mountain. People are hands-free, and the driver and the cab in the back can hear each other without any background noise. It's the same technology that if you see these scale trucks go by where they actually yell out the box out to the people weighing the truck, all that highway noise is missing. And so depending on how noisy, you can absolutely get it. But really, if you're thinking about a headset, you're talking about a 2 to 3 foot sound cone, and negating or mitigating anything beyond that sound cone. So those are the inexpensive microphones, can do that quite nicely. Thinking about it like a bit of a flashlight,
Yeah.
goes directly in a standing zone and a cutoff point after a few feet. So a hot zone and a cold zone. Very inexpensive to do.
Yeah, and we're testing it too, right? Like there's test environments so we're seeing how well this works. So far so good.
Yeah. There's also headset jacks on these things too. So the other thing that you'll see oftentimes in ATMs and in noisy environments, they'll actually have signage that says, go ahead and pair your headset to or plug in, right? So there are alternatives to noisy spaces. Anything else, Mehdi?
Let's see. I have one more question. Here it is. Can you clarify if there are parental controls available to monitor inappropriate questions, such as containing profanity to ensure security?
All of the above, Chewy, but yeah.
Yeah. So no, those are great questions. Yes, we have encountered these things, and the good news is that ChatGPT, Gemini, 22Miles, there's already standard safeguards. So ChatGPT already has what they've stripped and have stock answers to a lot of what you would deem inappropriate, right? Profanity and just inappropriate questions. So there's already safeguards in place. That's built in. But again, when we do encounter any such issues, we can also go back to the training to ChatGPT to respond to it appropriately.
And usually we're going to render this through a customer's desired experience of tools and websites. So there's a layering mechanism that comes in here. So if you're rendering things through a browser that already has parental controls and keyword blocking, and those tools are going to be passengers in this process that we're using. We're not going to step on anything that you're stripping out or allowing in. You get to decide that environment. We're going to be, once you've rendered the data to us, it's at that point, or the desired experience, at that point we'll render content back. So you get a hand in that as well. I've seen some prototyping on camera technology that, based on looks, will tell me that I'm over 40, and then give me an experience for someone who's looks over 40, and certainly voice. Some basic assumptions could be made about children at a kiosk, based on sizing. So there's other things I've seen that have started pointing in some automation. That's where mistakes happen. So we'd rather have the client have an engagement on that.
Yeah, you know what, Randy, you brought up a really good point.
Sometimes I do, so I appreciate you saying that.
Yeah, it's such an excellent point, because if I think about this AI at a trade show or at Rocket Mortgage or anywhere else, typically a visitor would go talk to somebody, right? They talk to a guy behind a counter, the info desk, and all those questions. Like once you don't really capture these engagements, right, between a visitor to the actual venue. With ChatGPT or any AI running on a kiosk, I'm thinking that the type of analytics that you would gain, and again, if you pair that up with demographics, with a camera that captures, gender, age, I think more than any time in our entire history, that this type of data is now available to you. It's unprecedented. Like what you could learn from the type of questions that people are asking. Are people just asking about where their seats are? Are people asking about where the bathrooms, or get a hot dog? Like how do you know? And well, now you do, right? Now you have this really unlimited potential to pair this data, the type of questions, to who's visiting, who's using. And, is it used by a bunch of kids? Like, is it used inappropriately, as one of the questions we're asking? Or is it truly useful? Like, just the analytics that you get from here, I think is just amazing.
Yeah, one kiosk could augment the rest of the convention center experience, because if you hear a recurring theme about where's the bathrooms, maybe you've now realized that your bathroom signage
It's terrible.
isn't it as bright as it needs to be.
Yeah. Yeah.
or maybe Tui's hot dogs. He needs to find his hot dogs. Is it lunchtime
Right.
here, buddy? Good. Maybe anything else on chat? We didn't stop recording, but I actually like the questions in the recording too. What we'll do,
It is.
yeah, we'll end up by breaking the recording into 2 segments, demo only, and then full webinar. So let's keep the recording on if there are any other questions, Mehdi.
Let's see, that's about it for me right here. Any came
Okay.
in for you, Randy?
The ones that I did were sort of more private pricing questions that I answered during TUI, so let's leave those off. Again, because we don't want anything we say about pricing today is going to change tomorrow, so it sort of becomes a bit frustrating for customers to hear, other than the benchmark stuff that I gave. So I'm good, Mehdi. Nothing else came in.
Awesome.
Well, so on behalf of, and Mehdi, I don't know if you have any wrap up. I think you have some housekeeping stuff to clean up. On behalf of 22 Miles and DCS Global, I really do appreciate the pile of you all that dialed in. And if you're watching the recording, a companion to the recording is going to be a link to the Contact Us. Jeff Goldstein, our VP of Sales, is also on this webinar. He's always glad to take sales call. I don't think he ever turns his cell phone off, but I will spare him the pain of putting his cell phone number on this. Hit our website, you'll find Jeff, and he'll align you with the right resource. 22 Miles, thank you very much. Tui, anything else you'd want to say, sir?
No, thank you so much for having me. This has been great.
Appreciate the partnership. Mehdi, any housekeeping?
All right. So, like Randy said and Tui said, thank you for everyone for showing up here. And hopefully this information shared today is valuable to you and your business. If you have any further questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to our team. Don't forget to stay connected and explore the possibilities of AI-enabled technology. And thank you again and have a wonderful day.